Hello, and welcome to Auto Be Careful, the place for car safety news and information. I'm Gene, and today we're going to be talking about why so few cars are qualifying for the 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick List. If you're unfamiliar, every year the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety, or IIHS, releases a list of the safest new vehicles you can buy. In order to qualify for this list, these new vehicles must meet certain safety standards, including performance standards in crash testing, as well as standards related to features such as headlight visibility. Now, the IIHS was formed by insurance groups in order to further knowledge on highway safety. Their research is used for various purposes by insurance companies, but some of the information, such as which vehicles are the safest, overlaps with public interest as well. This list is divided into two sections. There's the lower portion of the list called the top safety pick, and the highest ranking on the list is called the top safety pick plus. Now, these results aren't perfect. While this list can be used to find the safest cars available today, there are several cars that don't make the list because the IIHS doesn't test every car available. For example, the Mercedes GLS, which is the vehicle I own, isn't on this list because the IIHS has never tested it. However, the smaller version of this vehicle, the Mercedes GLE, has the best rating of a top safety pick plus. Now, we aren't going to talk about the specific vehicles that made the list this year. You can find that information on the IIHS website. The big news we're going to talk about is that the size of the list has shrunken dramatically from last year. The IIHS has noted that so far in 2025, there have been 48 vehicles that have made this list. However, this is a significant drop from this point in 2024 when there had been 71 vehicles that had made this list. Now, testing is still ongoing, and this number is likely to increase as the year goes on, but this is still a dramatic drop from last year. So the big question is, why are there so few cars meeting the safety thresholds this year compared to last year? Isn't technology added to cars supposed to make them safer and mean that more cars are added to this list? Well, you'd be correct in thinking that cars are getting safer. However, that's not the only thing that's changing. Like the emissions standards that we discussed last week, the IIHS safety standards get stricter year over year. If we were using the same standards that we used 10 years ago, nearly every new vehicle available for sale today would make the list. However, because the IIHS is trying to find the safest of these new cars, it keeps raising the bar that needs to be met in order to make this list. So the big question is, what changed in 2025 that caused such a significant drop in the number of vehicles that qualify for the top safety pick list? Well, this comes from an enormous change to the moderate overlap front safety crash test, which was updated in 2022 and for the first time included a second smaller female crash test dummy in a strategic location, the second row. And this helps evaluate second row passenger safety in a crash. The older version of the test only included one adult male crash test dummy located in the driver's seat. Now, while the new version of the test was being gradually phased in, the old version of the test continued to be used to evaluate vehicles. However, starting in 2025, the IIHS eliminated the old version of the test, meaning that in order to qualify for a top safety pick award, vehicles needed to meet second row passenger safety for crash tests for the first time. There are a couple of things to note about this test. The IIHS wants to stress that no matter how well a vehicle does in this test, the second row is still the safest place for children under the age of 13. So even if a vehicle does poorly on this test, it's still safer to put your children in the second row than in the first row. The other thing that the IIHS noted was due to the reduction in the number of vehicles that made the top safety pick list for 2025, there were entire categories of vehicles that were missing from the list this year that were included in the list last year. The biggest example of this is minivans. However, it's important to note that testing is not yet finished for 2025, and therefore the list is not yet complete. As I mentioned earlier, at this point last year, there were 71 vehicles that had made the top safety pick list for 2024. However, as testing continued through the remainder of the year, that list grew to be over 100 vehicles. So it is expected that the 2025 list will grow beyond the current 48 vehicles included. However, it's unlikely to get as high as the 2024 list. So now you know a ton more about the 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Standards. And if you're in the market for a new vehicle, you can take a look at this list, knowing that the vehicles that made the cut are ahead of the pack, especially when it comes to second row safety. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and remember to like and subscribe.